There are moments in a life when time stops pretending to be infinite, when the abstract fact that you already knew, that time passes, that days are numbered, that years do not return, stops being abstract and becomes real, completely, undeniably, quietly devastating real. This is the story of a man named Tariq, and the day time became real for him.
Tariq was 34 years old. Not old, not even close to old, but old enough to look back and see the shape of the years behind him. He had a good life, genuinely good. Comfortable job, close family, a small apartment he liked. He was not unhappy, but he was, if he was honest, not quite living. He was managing, moving through, getting through the week to get to the weekend, getting through the year to get to the vacation, getting through the day to get to the evening. The days were pleasant, the years were fine. He was getting through life rather than inside it. And he told himself this was normal. This was how it was. This was how everyone felt.
On a Thursday morning in October, Tariq received a phone call. A man he had known since university, a friend though they had drifted, a man who had once seemed indestructible, full of noise and plans and infectious energy. The call was from the man's wife. He had died, suddenly, unexpectedly, 41 years old. Tariq drove to the funeral the following week, and standing at the graveside in the cold October air, he looked around at the faces of their old group, 34, 36, 38. Men who had once been boys planning everything, men who were now standing at the edge of a grave, looking at the years differently than they had the week before. After the funeral, Tariq did not go straight home. He drove to the sea. He had not been to the sea in 3 years. He had meant to go many times, but there was always something. He sat on the cold sand in his funeral clothes and watched the water. And he began, for the first time in years, to think honestly. Not the comfortable half-thinking of ordinary days, but real thinking, the kind that goes to the places you usually avoid. He thought about the things he had been meaning to do, the conversations he had been putting off, the people he had been meaning to call, the places he had been meaning to go, the person he had been meaning to become. And he realized something that sat in his chest like a stone. None of those things were going to happen unless he made them happen. Not eventually, not when things settled down, not someday. They were going to require a decision, a real one, on a real day, like today. Tariq sat at the sea for a long time. He watched the water move in its continuous rhythm, coming in and going out, coming in and going out. And he thought about time. Not in the abstract way he had thought about it before, but concretely. He was 34. If he was lucky, very lucky, he had perhaps 40 more years of real life ahead. 40 years. On a calendar, that was a lot. But in his hands, in his actual days, 40 years was 480 months. It was roughly 14,000 days, and he had already spent 12,000 of his days. Already 12,000 days. The number sat in the cold sea air and asked him something. What had he done with them? What did he plan to do with the ones remaining? He drove home as the sun set. He did not make dramatic gestures. He did not quit his job or book a one-way ticket. He simply sat at his kitchen table and wrote a list. Not a bucket list, not a fantasy, a real list. The 3 people he had been meaning to call for a year or more. The one thing he had been saying he would do since he was 26. The conversation he had been avoiding
with someone who deserved to have it. The morning walk he had been meaning to start. Small things, real things, things that required nothing more than a decision to treat today as the day, rather than waiting for the day. He started the next morning, not with everything, with one thing. He called the first person on the list, a conversation he had owed for 2 years. It took 12 minutes, and when he hung up, he sat quietly for a moment and understood something clearly. The time he had been meaning to give to the things that mattered had always been available. It had simply been waiting for him to stop waiting.
Here is what Tariq understood sitting at the kitchen table that evening. Time does not feel like it is running out until suddenly it does. And by the time it feels that way, you have already spent more of it than you think. The years that have passed are not coming back, not any of them, not even one. But the years ahead, the remaining ones, those are still yours to shape. And the question is not whether you have time. You do. The question is whether you are spending it on the things that will matter to you when you are standing at the edge of someone else's grave, looking at your own years differently. The people you meant to call them. The things you meant to do, begin them. The conversations you have been avoiding, have them. The life you have been meaning to live, live it. Not when everything settles down, not when the timing is better. Now, with the exact life you have, on the exact day this is. Because today is one of the 14,000, and it is running.
Maybe you have your own list. The people who deserve a call you haven't made. The thing you said you would start this year. The conversation you have been carrying quietly. You don't need a funeral to make it real. You already know time is passing. You already know days don't come back. You just need this moment, right now, to let that knowledge land somewhere real. Not as fear, as permission. Permission to treat today as the day, to make the call, to take the step, to have the conversation, to spend at least one day of your remaining 14,000 on something that will have mattered. If this story reached something in you, like, share, and subscribe to The Golden Ache, because someone you know is carrying a list they keep meaning to begin, and today might be the day they start.